You think you're unstoppable, don't you, Herobrine? You've haunted these lands, lurking in the shadows, manipulating everything from the trees to the very code of Minecraft itself. But let's get real. Your reputation, it's built on fear. You've carved out a legacy of terror, leaving players shaking at the sight of your glowing eyes. But has that made you stronger? Or has it made you weaker, trapped in the same cycle of destruction? Let's talk about the time you cornered that player in the cave. Remember how they couldn't see you, but they felt you. The whispers, the sudden chills, the way the torches went out one by one. You had them in the palm of your hand. They ran, they hid. But what did that achieve for you? Another scared player, another story to keep your myth alive. But is fear the only thing you can spread? Imagine what would happen if instead of just watching them cower, you stepped out from the darkness and revealed yourself. What if you showed them the strength you possess, not through fear, but by creating something? You have the power to manipulate the world, but why always tear it down? What if, for once, you built something? Something that would leave a legacy far greater than any nightmare. Take that time you manipulated the forests, rearranging the leaves, making players question their reality. You have control over nature itself, and yet you use it to create confusion. But what if you harness that power to reshape the land into something extraordinary? Imagine a forest so magnificent that it leaves players in awe instead of dread. You could be the architect of wonders, not just the harbinger of doom. Remember that village you destroyed? The one where you turned every building to rubble in an instant? They called it a disaster, a catastrophe beyond measure. But destruction is easy, Herobrine. Anyone can tear things down. True power lies in creating, in building something that stands the test of time. You could have rebuilt that village, stronger, better, more resilient. You could have shown those villagers that while you have the power to destroy, you also have the power to create, to protect, to uplift. And what about those dungeons you've crafted, filled with traps and monsters designed to break even the most experienced players? You're proud of them, aren't you? The fear they instill, the stories they generate. But think about this. What if you used that creativity to design challenges that pushed players to their limits in a different way? Challenges that made them think, that made them grow, that made them respect you not as a monster but as a mentor. You could be the guide they never knew they needed, leading them to greatness instead of to their doom. You've spent so much time in the darkness, Herobrine. It's easy to forget that there's light in this world too. And you could be a part of that light. You have the power to shape reality, to bend it to your will. But why always bend it towards chaos? Why not create something that lasts, something that people will remember not with fear, but with gratitude? Look at the Endermen. They're feared too, sure, but they're also respected. They build, they transport, they move between dimensions with purpose. You could be like that, a force of nature, yes, but also a force for good. You could create portals, paths to new worlds, new opportunities. You could lead players to discoveries they never imagined, not just nightmares. And what about that stronghold you're hiding in? You know the one, deep underground, filled with traps and dangers. It's a place of darkness. But it doesn't have to be. You could turn it into a sanctuary, a place where the bravest players come not to die, but to learn, to grow, to become something more. You could be the guardian of knowledge, the keeper of secrets that could change the world for the better. But let's be real, Herobrine. To do that, you'd have to change. You'd have to stop seeing the world as something to conquer and start seeing it as something to nurture. You'd have to step out of the shadows and into the light, not as a destroyer, but as a creator, a protector. And that's hard. It's easier to destroy, to spread fear, to keep everyone at a distance. But if you did change, if you became something more, Think of the legacy you could leave behind. People fear you, but deep down they're fascinated by you too. They want to understand you, to see what makes you tick. And you could show them. You could be the one who brings balance to this world, who shows that even the darkest of beings can change, can grow, can become a force for good. Imagine the stories they'd tell then, Herobrine, not of a monster, but of a legend, a hero who started in darkness but found the light. So what's it going to be? Are you going to keep lurking in the shadows, feeding off fear and chaos? Or are you going to step up and become something more? The choice is yours, Herobrine. But remember, true power isn't in fear, it's in creation, in building something that lasts. And you, with all your abilities, could be the greatest creator this world has ever seen. Think back to all those temples you've raided, all the treasure you've taken, only to bury it deep within the earth where no one will ever find it. You've stockpiled power, hoarded it, letting it gather dust in the darkness. But what has that gained you? More fear? More stories? It's also temporary. That power could be so much more if you chose to share it, to guide others to it, to let them uncover the secrets you've kept hidden for so long. You've got this connection to the void, to the very fabric of the world. You understand the mysteries that others can only dream of. Yet you've kept it all to yourself, watching as players stumble around in the dark, never knowing how close they are to the answers they seek. What if you led them, Herobrine? What if, instead of pulling them into traps, you pulled them towards knowledge? You could be the guardian of secrets, the one who tests their worth, not by tearing them down, but by building them up. Remember that time you manipulated the weather? The storm you created that sent players running for cover, the lightning strikes, the sudden darkness. It was all so dramatic, so powerful. But what if, instead of using that power to create chaos, you used it to bring life? You could end droughts, bring rain to the barren lands, help crops grow. You could be the one who turns deserts into lush forests, who brings life where there was only death. Imagine the respect you'd command then, not out of fear, but out of gratitude. And those minds you've filled with traps, those tunnels that lead to nowhere, they're clever, no doubt, but they only serve to confuse and frustrate. You've led countless players to their doom. But what if you used that ingenuity to guide them to something greater? What if those tunnels led to hidden cities, to realms of wonder instead of despair? You could create entire worlds beneath the surface, worlds that reflect your power and creativity, not just your anger. You've got this uncanny ability to control mobs, to turn them against players in ways they never expect. You've sent armies of zombies, waves of skeletons, all to crush those who dare to cross your path. But imagine if you used that power differently. What if instead of commanding them to destroy, you commanded them to protect? What if you created an army, not of destruction, but of defense? Imagine players wandering into your territory, expecting doom, and instead finding safety, protection, a haven in a world full of dangers. They'd come to you not out of fear, but out of trust. Let's talk about the Nether. You know it better than anyone. The lava lakes, the fortresses, the ghasts that scream through the air. You've ruled that realm with an iron fist, making it a place of horror. But what if you changed that? What if you turned the Nether into a place of refuge, a place where only the bravest players could survive, not because of the danger, but because of the challenge? You could create trials, tests of strength and wisdom that would forge the greatest warriors. They'd tell stories of the trials of Herobrine, not as a curse, but as a rite of passage. You've spent so much time haunting the overworld, making it a place of fear. But have you ever considered what would happen if you embraced it instead? The overworld is vast, full of potential. You've always been at odds with it, bending it to your will. But what if you worked with it instead? You could cultivate the land, create realms of beauty that leave players in awe. You could be the one who turns barren lands into paradises, who brings balance to a world that's always been on the brink of chaos. Imagine players talking about you not as a monster, but as a mentor, a guide, a protector. Imagine the stories they'd tell, the legends that would grow. You could be a part of something greater, something lasting. You could be the one who turns this world into something truly extraordinary. But to do that, you've got to change. You've got to let go of the past, of the fear, of the need to control. You've got to embrace the light, the hope, the possibility of something better. It's not easy, Herobrine, but nothing worth doing ever is. The greatest challenges lead to the greatest rewards, and you could be the one who reaps those rewards.